We are joined today by a remarkable woman, director, editor, producer, Miss Caletta Harris. She is the director of a docuseries called No Address. It is showing now in limited theaters. Just because it's limited don't mean you can't get to it.
Amen.
Find your way to it. So, Miss Harris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I'm excited.
Could you just start off by introducing yourself? Share with us a bit about who you are.
Well, I am a humanitarian. I love nature. I love humans. And what I do is direct, edit, produce film, documentaries, commercials, promos, sizzles. That's kind of how I started in the video production world. And then in 2013, I transitioned into the film world.
I love the distinction you made between what you do and who you are. You said, I am and I do.
Yes.
Yep.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. So we wanted to get started by showing the trailer for your documentary series. Is that okay with you?
That is fine.
Yes. All right. We're going to roll that.
We're being harassed. We can't be in the parks. We can't be at the bus transit stations. Law enforcement, they're subject to pull up on us and tell us, hey, you can't sit here, you can't stand there, you have to move on.
They took up all the benches in town so that nobody could sit down anywhere.
I done went to jail down here in Raleigh, North Carolina, 4 times since I've been down here.
I don't think it should be a crime for being homeless.
It's more like out of sight, out of mind.
How do you criminalize somebody's situation?
They're called ordinances, but they're usually city laws that make it a crime to sleep in public, to sit in public, to lie down in public, to sleep in a car, to beg for help, to eat sometimes in public. I mean, they just take a variety of different forms.
Gentrification is the only housing policy that this city has. Atlanta's housing policy is gentrification. That's it.
I want to do more for myself and getting myself out of this homelessness so I can pay for me a home.
But when you have no address, getting just a decent, regular, scheduled job, virtually impossible.
That was nice.
So that's a really powerful trailer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you share what drew you to this series?
Well, I was in my downtown office in Columbia, South Carolina back in 2013, and I read an article in the newspaper, and Columbia City Council wanted to do something about their homeless situation. And they had 3 options, and it was either leave town, go to family, go to the outskirts of town into a shelter or encampment, or be subject to jail if you're caught on the streets. So I was appalled because I would speak to the unsheltered community all the time, just being downtown, where they congregate. So I'm an empath. And I was like, what if that were me and I had to just disappear? Where would I go if I had nowhere to go? So I was like, well, I have a production company and I have all the tools. So let me just start filming what's going on around me. And that's how it started.
So I know that this series follows different cities: Columbia, South Carolina, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And so these are different locations, but we're wondering what common thread did you see throughout these places?
Lack of affordable housing. That's the common thread.
Can you say that again?
Lack of affordable housing.
Wow. Dear Lord.
Yeah, and that's the common problem, which should not be.
Right.
Which should not be. There's so many alternative ways to housing, but, politics involved. So it's not like it can't be done. It's just getting through that red tape.
Right. That line really hit me when she said in the video that gentrification is their solution to this, because I wonder all the time, with us building and constructing all these houses, all these apartments, how do we have unsheltered people?
Exactly.
It's truly politics, it's money, it's greed. It's all of that. So I definitely feel you.
And let me make another point. When these moratoriums lift on the 31st of March, we're going to see an influx. And they are projecting about 40 million people to be on the streets or unsheltered.
Wow.
And unsheltered can mean doubling up, sleeping on someone's couch. It doesn't have to be on the streets per se, but all of that includes if you don't have a lease, if you don't have an address, then you're considered homeless or unsheltered. And people that owe back rent from, if they didn't pay from March or April of last year, they still owe that. So what the moratorium is going to do by April 1st, the eviction process is going to start.
Wow. Yes. April 1st is days away.
It's days away. So that's when these evictions are going to start.
So you mentioned some alternatives. What are some of those?
Well, my ultimate solution is to have land, to obtain land to build sustainable communities for the unsheltered. And what does that look like? That looks like tiny homes, still homes, container homes, because container homes are awesome because they can withstand Category 5 hurricanes. Any type of still home can withstand a natural disaster. And I want to be able to have that foundation where nonprofits and people that are boots on the ground can actually have somewhere to have their services. And then I want to also incorporate organic farming because I'm a farmer and sustainability, mind, body, and spirit aligned, and then create entrepreneurs within that so people don't have to beg for a job. They can become entrepreneurs through agriculture. So that's what I want to do. And a lot of the people here that are boots on the ground are begging for a seat at the table with the corporations to say, let's collaborate. My efforts, I'm always here. Let me tell you what the people need, but they're not trying to listen to that. So I say, forget them. Let me create that foundation.
That is my motive. That is my answer to everything.
Everything.
The school system, the food, everything. I just say we need our own.
We do. And I mean, legislature is good. That's why I thought that's where we can really create change. And it is. There's things on the books for affordable housing and housing as a human right. But, that takes time. That's a whole process. But we gave the government centuries to do this, and it's getting worse. So it's going to take us to collaborate and be the change we want to see.
So you're raising money for that land fund.
And I am raising money for the land fund, donations, land, because in South Carolina, the land is cheap, But I want the people to come together with me, not me just doing it all by myself. And okay, well she did it, now we can do it. No, because there's more value when you collaborate. So I funded the documentary. I brought the awareness because that's the first thing I wanted to do was bring awareness first. Let people know exactly what's going on in the backyards of America because a lot of people have these stereotypes of what homelessness looks like, but it looks like all of us.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's no more stereotypical unsheltered person, So that's what I wanted to break down. It can be anybody. And then with these moratoriums, it's going to be your neighbor. It's going to be your cousin. It's going to be. So now you're going to start thinking about it. Like, we need to build something. We need to have sustainability for these people, So that's what I'm trying to do is work with the land. South Carolina first, then Georgia, and wherever else from there.
Can you talk about how people can support this?
You can definitely support by going to noaddressdocumentary.com. Everything's on there. Resources, articles, where to donate, all of that. Contact me. Anything is right there. I'm trying to make it one hub.
That's smart.
You go to, yes.
So we have done some research and I've read that houselessness in Atlanta has increased by 30% since 2019. What do you think is the cause of this in Atlanta particularly? Is there anything about the structure of Atlanta that increases these numbers in this way?
Gentrification.
Talk about it. Please expand on that. If someone is not so familiar with gentrification, what does that entail?
So gentrification, it's more of big businesses coming in and taking over properties and land that has been basically owned by the community for a long time. And especially our elders, they're being bribed to get out of the community. A lot of these abandoned buildings they call them ghost houses, where they actually buy these homes and let them sit. Sit there for whatever until the property value raises, and then they go ahead and get a tenant that'll pay $1,500 to $2,000 when it was actually $500 to $700 a month. Because I've heard even in Vine City, a lady was doubling up with someone and trying to save money so she can get an apartment. And back then the apartment was like $600. Now they want $1,000.
Wow.
For the same thing. There's no upgrades. Nothing's changed.
Right.
Nothing's changed. So this is what's happening, the opportunity zones, all of this. But I say if you're going to create this, then you need to have alternative. If you're going to have luxury, you need to have supplement with affordable housing. At the same rate.
Right.
But who am I?
Right. So when we talk about tactics of displacing unsheltered people, we're seeing different strategies. Here in Atlanta, the Georgia Department of Transportation put some boulders underneath the downtown connector, claiming that the homes would become a fire hazard, right? They come up with whatever excuses. I've seen sweeps happening in LA. Can you talk about these strategies and how they affect the people on the ground?
Yes. These strategies, they call it hostile architecture. And one of my friends, Marshall Ransford, he's on the ground every single day doing outreach. Every single day. This man is just like a hero to the unsheltered. And he actually supplied the tents for a lot of people under those bridges, the Prior Street bridges, which you're referring to. And that was to keep people to be physically distant because the shelters are overcrowded, all is overcrowded. So he said, if I can bring tents and they can space out, no one has to worry about getting COVID or whatever. So I guess a couple of months later, they came and swept it up. And I think when COVID hit, it was probably like a month or two where law enforcement didn't bother anybody across the country. And then they just picked it back up full force. So they're going to use excuses all day long. But people are going to go, they're like around the corner from there now. You know, people have to have somewhere to stay. So you can't just put architecture up, hostile architecture up, and then say, problem solved.
Right.
There's no thing is problem solved. You have to have an alternative or at least be able to say, this is where you can go. This is the next step. Give people options.
Right.
But that's not the case. So I say let it be. I mean, no one's harming each other. No one's doing anything. It's just an eyesore for the community. That's all it is. It's beautification. So if it doesn't look good, then people are going to complain. So,
which is a shame. And that says a lot about how the people who are displacing other people see humanity or the lack thereof, their inability, that you would rather have a beautiful, pristine street than to just simply look at a brother or a sister who is just in a different situation. That's all.
And let's speak of beautification. I say, why don't you hire the unsheltered to clean up the streets? Because every city in America is filthy. Everywhere you go, there's trash everywhere. Like it's just a big landfill.
Right.
You know? So why don't you hire them? In Texas, they're doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just heard DOT in some state, I have so much information in my head sometimes. But one state I heard, this was actually a couple of days ago, 300,000 positions available.
Wow.
Are you serious? But they can't fill it. But you won't go to the unsheltered.
Right.
All right.
So
then those are the day laborers that you hire to build the whole city, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. I digress.
Can you tell us what's next for you?
What's next is Atlanta. So Atlanta is actually going to be an episodic within itself. I have way too much information and I don't want to slide it. So I think I'm going to do like a 3-part series, and the first is going to be COVID, and I'm going to say pandemic versus pandemic because both of them are, I think. And the other one is going to focus on shelters, the inside scoop.
Okay.
And the other one is going to be on housing. So that's where I'm going to go with that. And then we're going to go back to California because so much has changed. I've already been there. I went to Skid Row, and that's like hell on earth. I've never seen anything like that in my life, where you have like 10,000 people in a 5-block radius in a cesspool of ish. It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. And I'm like, and it's 8 miles from Rodeo Drive, Beverly Hills. You can
I
see
bet.
it from
Right.
Skid
So
Row,
close.
right? And then I'm looking at the people going and shopping in these stores, and the patrons are just walking over bodies
Wow.
like they don't even exist.
Wow.
And this is normal
Mhm.
there. I don't understand. But a lot has changed since the pandemic. So I'm going to go back and get some stories and get the people that's boots on the ground and organizations. So that's the next thing. And then after that, I'm going to pretty much stop unless people want me to go in their city, and I will expose that as well.
Please expose all of America.
Mhm.
Right?
And then take it on to the British. Let's go on and expose them, and then just keep it going.
It's all over the world. It's
Right.
all over the world. And it's
Right.
just trickling down to the States. Like, this has already been happening. And yeah, we're not going to go there of how they're not even acknowledging it. But after that, then I'm just going to focus on the foundation, No Address Foundation, and building these communities. I want to be a part of the solution, not just talk about the destitute and everything. I want to be a part of the solution.
I love that, because making a film is important, but it doesn't have to stop there, and you've shown us that. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your craft, for your commitment. Before we wrap it up, I'd like to ask you, is there anything on your heart that you would like to share?
I would like everyone to watch the documentary, to get educated first on what's going on, and then that's going to spark some change, because there's a lot of call to action in it. So stay tuned. No Address, documentary.com.
All right.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
Thank you.